At Raising Financial Freedom, we're on a mission to inspire and empower financial freedom to every parent so that they can pass it along to their children. Through engaging stories, expert advice, and actionable tips, our podcast is transforming lives and helping listeners take control of their financial futures. Your support helps us produce high-quality, impactful episodes, expand our reach to underserved communities, and keep this life-changing content free for everyone. Whether it's $5, $10, or any amount, every donation fuels our mission and makes a difference. You can donate by clicking the heart-shaped link next to the social icons or the link at the bottom of the show notes. Once again, thank you for supporting Raising Financial Freedom and joining us in creating a world where financial freedom is within everyone's reach. Together, we can make a difference.
Today on episode 8 of Raising Financial Freedom, we have Ivan Inspires, and later on we have some announcements to make. So let's get it.
Dad, hurry up and turn on the music.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have it all financially? Do well-off parents simply hand their children money? Or is there more to this wealth thing? Welcome to Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. We are here to talk about everything you never knew to teach your children when it comes to starting their financial future. The principles behind wealth and methods that are out there to teach your child about personal financial freedom. There is no real trick to earning other than learning. We are here to discuss, teach, and grow with you. Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast, with your host and concerned parent, Eric Yard. Let us get right into today's show.
Ivan Inspires. Ivan, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'm doing fine.
How about you?
I was reading your website and I thought it was very interesting. And when I saw your bio, I just knew that you had to be on our show. Just get right to it. Let's address the elephant in the room. Why don't parents think or acknowledge financial illiteracy is a problem?
I think deep down, everyone knows that it's a problem. As far as acknowledgement is concerned, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, and again, to each their own, not everybody falls into this category, but I think the vast majority of parents don't really have a good grasp on money, like the understanding of it, how to make it. They're financially illiterate themselves. So the last thing they want to do is feel inadequate or seem almost just out of place when you, the teacher, the parent, goes to your child and tries to talk about something that even you yourself don't know too much about. So I think that's one of the bigger things, the fact that they don't know how to, in all honesty, it's like sex. Nobody wants to have that conversation, and some parents just hope kids figure it out on their own, and which they will. And it's the same thing with money. You ignore the topic, at some point they will figure it out on their own. And the problem with that is that with money, it's so easy to get put into a hole. You can dig yourself into a really big hole. Let's call it debt, for example, bad debt. Who wants to find out that way? Who wants to find out after the fact? In terms of parents and why they're uncomfortable, I think it just has to do with the fact that they themselves are financially illiterate. And I think that's the bigger portion of it. There's a lot of other factors, but I think that's one of the bigger
Why do
ones.
you think the school systems is not really addressing it aggressively?
There's going to be controversial, but I think we should all accept the reality. We live in a world where financial literacy, just all the tools we need, all the information, it's readily available. It's a Google search away. So for it not to be in the schools, it would make me at least think that they don't want it there. Does that make sense? If they wanted it, it would be there. And so I'm not saying it's not in every school, because there are some states that are picking it up and they're finally starting to make a personal finance course mandatory to graduate. But you can see it's not a priority.
It's only one.
It's not right up there with math and reading. It's just one course. It's barely enough to scratch the surface. I can't say I'm satisfied with that. I would have to just assume that they don't want you to know it. And when I say they, whomever's in control of the school system, and I'm not trying to be controversial, I'm just saying, think about it. We have access to all this information, and we've had it for many years. And at the end of the day, at some point, it looks like they're choosing that as an option, not so much of the fact that they don't have the resources or the information or the funding. They just don't think that it's a priority. And the sad part is that people that do realize it, whether it's a parent or a student, they realize that they need the information. They're forced to go out into the real world and figure it out on their own time. And that's how I did it.
Yeah, I think it's a definite issue. And what I think is that the system is built to make workers, people who are work within the system and apply to jobs and just be good workers and not want to strive to excel past that point.
I agree 100%. They're producing highly efficient employees, and I can't say there's anything wrong with that if you're an owner, but if you want to be the owner, you're going to see something bad with that system. You're going to say, what about me? How come I'm not the guy driving the Ferrari or the Lamborghini, if that's what you prefer? How come I'm not the one collecting the rent and managing? And it should be the other way around, or it should at least be optional. And that's the thing. A lot of parents or teachers, for that matter, some have opinions and they say, not everybody wants to build wealth. Not everybody wants to be rich. Not everybody wants to own a business. And that's true. But at least give people the option. If you're gonna make it where it's not optional in terms of reading and writing, or learning math, or having a gym class, or social studies, if those things are not optional, then you should also put the financial literacy in there as well. That's the way I look at it. And then as the student grows older, let them choose. You're right. They might not want to pursue wealth, but at least have it ingrained in them at an early age where they had a fighting chance. Because I believe the longer you wait to learn the information, the more prone you are to picking up bad habits when it comes to money. And like I said, you might dig yourself in a hole before you even ever get to start.
Yep. So when did you realize you had a passion for teaching finance and wealth building?
I was a terrible student. I wasn't like a bad kid. I just was very bored in school, and I cut class all the time. And I cut class so much in high school that at one point I came home and my mother just told me that I'm in the GED program. Like, she removed me from high school and put me in the GED program. So that was, as much as I hated school, I never wanted to quit, if that makes sense. I was very much a procrastinator, and I thought I'll catch up eventually. So to make a long story short, it took me 3 times to finally pass the GED. And I felt like such a loser because all my friends were still going to school and I'm home alone just doing nothing. That time, away from school, it propelled me to want to do something with myself. So I ended up going to college, community college, for accounting. And then I started doing really well. And then I finally picked up a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A lot of people heard of it. It's by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book just opened me up completely. It changed my life in terms of my perspective. And it taught me all these things that I was thinking about, but I never had no one in my circle saying this. No one older than me that could be like a mentor to confirm these thoughts that I had. So every time I learned something, I felt compelled to teach someone. So it could have been a friend, a family member. Every time I learned a gem, I tried to tell somebody, and immediately the information would be repelled. They didn't want to hear it, or they weren't interested, or they thought it was a scam. And I continued my reading, I continued my learning, and every time I felt like there was something of value, I kept on feeling compelled to teach. And every time it would be rejected. I literally had no one to talk to, and I clammed up and just felt like I was the only person that felt like this. This was before the internet was huge. Okay. So I didn't have Facebook groups and Instagram and all this other stuff to connect with entrepreneurs. I only had myself. So it wasn't until I became a father that I realized, forget about my friends and family. I got to make sure I at least teach this information to my children. You get it? So I wanted to make sure that the information that I was learning wasn't going to die with me. It was going to be passed over to them. So that's when I dived into teaching seriously, but to my children. I gave up with the public because I noticed that it wasn't just a friend here or a friend there. It felt like the majority of people that I've met, like the vast majority, had a really bad relationship when it came to money and investing. I could talk more about teaching my children financial literacy, but that was when I knew I had to do it. And that was like the breaking point for me.
So you say teaching your children, how many kids do you have?
5.
5. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Are they going to school? Are they being homeschooled? What type of regimen are you? Introducing the Dollars and Cents Bundle. This isn't just another boring financial guide. It's your secret weapon for raising financially smart kids. Inside this bundle, you'll get 3 powerful tools to make money lessons a breeze. First up, a kid-friendly budget sheet. It's the perfect way to help your child track their money, build healthy habits, and get hands-on experience managing their earnings. Next, you'll unlock the guide, Money Mavericks, bite-sized wisdom for busy parents. Think of it as your quick start playbook, packed with expert-backed tips to help you teach your kids about saving, spending, and everything in between. And finally, there's my favorite part, interactive digital flashcards. These are perfect for teaching core money concepts in a way that's fun, engaging, and memorable for the whole family. Here's the best part. The Dollars and Cents Bundle is completely free. Yep, free. All you have to do is sign up and the tools are yours, delivered straight to your inbox. You owe it to your kids to give them the skills they need to succeed in life. The Dollars and Cents Bundle makes it simple, fun, and totally doable, no matter how busy you are. So, what are you waiting for? Make financial literacy a family adventure. Head over to show notes right now to grab your free Dollars and Cents Bundle link, or go to nurturingfinance.com and subscribe. Don't wait. Start your family's financial journey today.
My first two children are with my ex. And unfortunately, I don't have the privilege of raising them side by side with her. And they are in another city. So I do what I can from a distance. But unfortunately, the relationship that I have with my ex is not the best one. I'm sure you guys heard of this story before. It's not new. You can imagine me trying to teach this information to children that I don't have access to. You can only imagine the struggle I've been through when I have this information that I feel like it's gold, but I can't get it to them. You know what I mean? Like I can't get it to them because of the relationship. So I take all that I do have, all that passion, and I pour it into my other 3. And we homeschooled my other 3 with my wife for forever. They were always homeschooled until this last year. This was the first year we decided to put our children into school, public school. And it happened to be the year of COVID, which is like the funniest thing. They've been homeschooled before this and the entire span of their life. And then the one year we decided to put them in school, COVID kind of snatched them right out. So it is what it is. But you want me to tell you as far as like my teaching methods?
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
Tell me. Sure. As I told you, I was a terrible student. I tried to make sure that I passed this information over to my children. And as I was teaching them the information, I noticed that they were very bored. They weren't listening, and they just couldn't retain any of the information that I taught them. And that's when I had to do a lot of self-reflecting. I had to think about my childhood and my relationship with the teachers in school. And I realized that my approach when it came to teaching my children was the same approach that my teachers had with me, which was just regular reading, lecturing, and just regular teaching. And immediately I realized, wow, like I'm the same boring teacher that I used to run from. Okay. So I had to come up with a way to like still teach, but do it in a way where they will be able to retain it and to want to have some type of engagement. And after a lot of brainstorming, my wife suggested that I make a game and pack all the lessons into the game. And that's what we did. We created a board game. And it worked like a charm. I could talk for days about the game itself, but just to let you know, all the information that I've learned throughout the years from entrepreneurship and all my ventures and everything, I put it into the game, and I presented it to them as that. I didn't say, hey, we're going to be learning about money. We're going to be investing. I just said, let's play this game. And when I tell you their engagement levels went through the roof, you would have to try it to like really get the experience that I've had, especially when you come off of just so much failure, them constantly rejecting it. And because of that, I continued on, and I actually turned it into an actual course for children. But we don't have to talk about that right now. I just want you to know, like, the game itself played a major role. I encourage anybody that is teaching their children about financial literacy, create a game of your own. Put it in. It doesn't matter what kind of game. It's just take the focus off of like traditional learning and hit them with an indirect approach, and you'll see like their whole perspective will change.
We're definitely going to get into. It sounds like it's a major tool for you. You're a creator and you're an author. And when I say creator, you're the creator of Head Start to Riches. Tell me about this game.
Yep. As I said, this was a problem that I had. I'm sure other people had it, but I wasn't focused on the public. I was just trying to solve my own problem. And as I'm very passionate about financial education, so not teaching them the information wasn't an option. It was just a matter of how am I going to get it to them. So when I came up with the game and it started to work, I sort of realized, oh my goodness, like I'm on to something. And it had to be fun, though. It couldn't just be like in the format of a game. It had to be fun, something that would make you want to play again and again. So it took me about a year of constantly refining it and just making certain additions here and there. And eventually I finally finished it, and I thought about bringing it to the market. But then I started thinking about all the drawback that I would probably have when it came to the public. A lot of people aren't into financial literacy. So I started thinking, I can't go to the parents. I need to go to the schools. This needs to be in schools, because at the end of the day, if financial literacy was being taught at home, we wouldn't have the problem that we're in now. But the problem is that it's not being taught at home. A lot of parents expect that the school system to teach them this. So if I tried to sell an educational game to the parents, then they'll still have the option to opt out. They'll still have the option to say, this is not that important. So that's why my approach is to go after the school system. As difficult as that may be, right, my goal is to put this into schools all around the world and to replace the textbooks with the game. I built a curriculum around it. There's videos. There's a lot involved in it. It's not just playing. But I just want to say that because the idea is to make a difference. And I feel like if you keep on approaching something the same method, we're not going to get anywhere. You have to switch it up and do what works. And I know what we have going on in the school system right now isn't working. If we can try something new, I'm all for it, and I would hope others are.
So when you was making this game, it seems like your kids were the test subject. So sure. Tell me, how was it received by them?
It was instant success. Here's the thing. The fact that I'm going to profit from it and I own it makes it very easy for anybody on the other end of this conversation listening to assume that this is all BS because they're my kids and it's my product. That's why all over the website, I say, just try it. And if it doesn't work, I will give you all your money back. Like I would like literally refund everything because I don't know how else to prove to you that it works. But at the end of the day, just with anything else that deals with money, there's a lot of skepticism that comes along with the territory. People just assume that there's something else going on. It can't be that easy. But I'm telling you right now, games are like the biggest thing. So to me, the only bit of financial literacy I had at home, the only bit, and it was very indirect, was playing Monopoly as a child. And I didn't know I was learning about financial literacy. I was just playing. But that was the only thing I had going for me. And it probably, I'm almost 100% certain it played a major role as to why I ended up buying real estate later on in my life, because I got so used to buying houses and hotels with the gameplay. Just, again, I can't say it enough. If you have a program, if you have a lesson you want to teach, find some topic, even if it's a game of matching, or not matching, memory. It is going to make a huge difference. If you know anything about games, even if it's an electronic game, there's a certain level of dopamine that's released inside the child's brain. And because of that, it gets their engagement up. They get excited. As children play and they win, their confidence grows. When their confidence grows, they makes them want to participate more. The cognitive learning benefits are through the roof. When you're reading a book, and nothing against reading a book, but if you're just reading a book, it's not the same as interacting with 3 other children, watching how the other person reacts every time they make a move, watching them cry, watching them celebrate a win. These emotional skill, like it's emotional intelligence that's being given off when you play a game. And that's what you need to have when you want to acquire wealth. You can't just know financial literacy. You have to have a high level of awareness of yourself, of others. You need confidence, a ton of things you need to have. And that's why I'm trying to tell you, it's not just the game itself, it's playing it. It's the entire procedure. Another thing is the fact that anything that's worth remembering requires you to do it over and over. You need repetition. Even if you're trying to be a good basketball player, you need to shoot that free throw over and over. You got to keep shooting and shooting. And it's the same thing with learning about investing. The more you do it, the better you'll get. And the game simulates you doing different type of investments. And because you're doing it over and over, you're programming their subconscious mind to get comfortable with the transaction and to be used to everything that's involved. Right now, if I were to take an adult and I would explain to them some of the methods used to build wealth, I'm not saying everybody's like this, but a lot of people, they're so uncomfortable with the conversation because all they hear is risk and fear, and there's a lot of worry behind it, and it's because they haven't practiced. It's a brand new language for them. And I can't say it enough. You got to do it when they're young, and you got to do it over and over until it becomes part of them.
What age is the game for? What ages?
I have it for ages 7 and up. However, my 4-year-old was playing with us, and I didn't try. He's 5 now, but he started when he was 4. But I felt so bad because I'm playing with my daughter who was 11 at the time, 10 at the time. And it was just my wife, my wife and my daughter that was playing. And my son, he's 4 years old.
Curious.
He's watching. He's dying to play. He's like, please let me play. Please. He's just, if he could just roll the dice. Right. And I felt bad because we kept saying, sorry, you're too young. You're too young. And finally, I caught myself and I said, you know what? No, come on. He's going to play. Let him play. And I said, I'm going to help him because I'm very competitive. I like to win. I'll beat my daughter at every opportunity. But at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm going to help him. I'm not advertising this game for 4-year-olds, but I'm letting you know that he's been playing for a year now. And you know what I mean? Like, he knows about raising capital. He knows how to make an acquisition, and he knows enough. Not enough, but he knows more than the average 5-year-old. And I'm telling you right now, their willingness is there. It's us as parents that push them aside and say, sorry, kid, you're too young. I was doing it to him. I did it for a few months, actually. At some point, we have to acknowledge that they're smarter than we know, than we assume. And we have to give them a chance. And the sooner you introduce it to them, the sooner they will be able to get comfortable and get to the next stage of that. But as far as my recommendation, I recommend people starting them as young as possible. The moment they're able to talk, start teaching them, them about it. I don't see why not. I feel like this is just my opinion. You know, there's no research behind it. You could call it a theory. But I feel like a lot of people shelter their children from money. The conversation, not because they're financially illiterate, but a lot of people have a lot of resentment and fear attached to it. And some even have pain. So if you have pain associated to something, why would you want to introduce it to your child? A lot of people want to protect them. So the last thing they want to do is introduce it to them. And again, this is a lot of psychology. We could go there if you want, but I'm letting you know that's why people feel like, oh, I don't want to trouble them with money right now. You know, let's keep that away. And it's because who said that money is something to be worried of? Who said it's something that is only for adults? And to me, that's a reflection of that parent's relationship.
Right. They don't want to be trouble
with money. No, they have pain. They have resentment. I've had it for the majority of my life. I've had it, and it's on a subconscious level. I'm writing a new book right now. It's called A Parent's Guide to Raising Wealthy Children. And the majority of it is what I'm talking about right now. Like, the first thing you need to do is realize that as a parent, you have a relationship with money. It could be good or bad, but you have one, whether you like it or not. And before you start teaching your children about it, you need to find out what type you have before you start imposing like a negative mindset onto your child. And I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear that, but it's true.
So I want to go back into the game. I was hearing that you said there was building capital and some other points in the game. Tell me some of the points that the game touches on.
Sure. So there's a lot in there. There's a whole bunch, but for the most part, I want children to understand, first of all, it's about creating wealth. Okay, not to get rich, but wealth. And all wealth, in my opinion, it starts with an idea. It doesn't start with money. It doesn't start with a product or anything. It starts with like somebody had an original idea. It might not even have been original. It could have been like a remake, but they had the idea. And so that's the first part. So all the children, when they're playing the game, they start with no money. Okay, it's not like Monopoly where everybody has $1,500. This is where everybody starts with no money. But what you do have is 6 pitch decks. Okay, and a pitch deck, if you don't know already, is something that allows you to pitch an investor so that you can raise capital for your idea, for your business. So I give children 6 pitch decks. So I want to empower them to know that if they have an idea, whether it be in the game or in real life, they have the ability to take not money, but an idea and take it to the next stage, which is pitching an investor. Okay. So I have it where they have to pitch an investor and they have an opportunity to raise money so that they can go ahead and start a website, start a business, buy real estate. I have 3 different formats in the game, but the idea is to start something. And so that's one big part. Another part is I want children to understand that all wealth is created with teams. It's not like an individual sport where like I'm gonna become wealthy on my own. Nobody becomes wealthy on their own. They have a team of people. They might not start like that, but eventually they have a mob of people behind them that's working for them. They can be their partner, but they have their accountants, their lawyers, their brand ambassador, everybody, the marketers, salespeople. So I have a part of the game where children have to build their dream team. Okay. And they're able to raise more money. Actually, excuse me, they can't even raise money until they get a dream team. Okay. So I'm trying to instill in children that recruiting is extremely important. So I'm going to give you an example in real life. In real life, if you want to be a good business person, you have to have the ability to recruit people, especially talented people. And that's not being taught in school. You get it? So like when it comes to financial literacy, knowing about money, knowing about balance sheets and what's an asset, that's all fine. That's very important. But you have to have the entrepreneurship included, all those skills. So recruiting, having that ability and knowing that it's a factor is factored into the game. So 2 big things I just mentioned. One's the ideas. Actually 3. I said raising capital. And then the other one is building a team. And then another thing I'll touch on, because it touches on a lot, but I'll just end on this one. They have to get acquired. They have to build either a portfolio or a conglomerate, and they have to get acquired to be able to win the game. So I'm instilling in children that they have to have an exit plan started from the very beginning. Like it has to be a part of their plan. You cannot win. You cannot build wealth if you don't get acquired. And that's how it is in real life. There's a lot of people that are wealthy on paper, but the money doesn't actually become liquid and hits their bank account until they like IPO or get acquired. So I'm putting that in their minds because in real life, a lot of people start their business and then they just stay in it. They don't move on to others. They don't try to build past just that one mom and pop. They stay stagnant. And if they knew early on in life that they should be working towards getting acquired and then moving on to the next and kind of making it into a snowball, they wouldn't be so attached to their business. So I know I threw a lot at you, just,
that's good. I mean,
but that's the thing, man. I'm passionate and I can easily go off on
So
a
the
tangent.
game is focused on wealth building. What is the one main thing people don't realize about wealth building?
There's the main one. Here's the thing. Wealth, in my opinion, is a huge amount of money. Huge. So to me, a lot of people don't realize that you may not be around to see the fruit. Like, you may not be around to reap the benefits. You might be the one that just creates the foundation for your children to go ahead and build the wealth.
Did you hear what he just said? What he said was a solid point which parents need to understand. Let's hear that one more time.
Like, you may not be around to reap the benefits. You might be the one that just creates the foundation for your children to go ahead and build the wealth. It might not be done in one lifetime is what I'm saying. And because it might not be done in one lifetime, that does not mean it's not something you should not pursue. So, like, you have to be selfless in such a way where you have that sense of, not sense, but you have to know that there's going to be a great deal of sacrifice required in order for this to happen. Again, I'm not talking about getting rich. Anybody can get rich. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about building wealth, something that's going to last generation after generation. And if you are thinking about that, you have to be okay with the fact that you might have been the one to just pass the torch onto your child, and they're the ones that were able to bring it home.
And on your website, you have a saying on there that really intrigues me. Be a part of the solution and leave a legacy. What that means to you?
I think a lot of people are problem oriented, and I feel rather than thinking about all the things that are holding us back, we should be thinking more towards solutions. And there's a quote, I'll probably misquote it, but it's the one that goes, be the change that you want to see in the world. So I really tried my best to live my life like that. I want to be the change to the best of my ability. I don't want to wait for any handouts or kind of wait for someone else to come save me. I want to be able to do everything, not do it on my own, but I want to get the ball rolling now. So with that said, the game, the program that I created, in my opinion, is a solution. Okay. Now I know I can't do it on my own. I'm going to need help. I'm going to need a lot of people to participate in this movement, but it is a solution. And it's just a matter of, do you want to ignore it or do you want to be a part of it? And I think that's really what it boils down to. We could point fingers. We could talk about politicians. We could talk about our parents. We could talk about our race. We could talk about so many things. But what are you bringing to the table that's going to move us forward and try to fix a problem? And that's what I'm all about.
Okay. So this road that you're going down to, that you're traveling on, what is the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
The biggest one in terms of which part of my life do you want to know? Because there's a lot of challenges in terms of the game, in terms of
the everything with the game, your books, and trying to teach.
Here's the thing. This all started from the first book that I wrote, which is also called Head Start to Riches. At the time, I was selling life insurance and I was struggling. And there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to tell customers face to face, but I didn't have the balls to tell them. In all honesty, it's not easy to look a parent in the eye and say, you guys have no coverage. Like, you got to do some more for your family. And a lot of it went over people's heads. A lot of my pain and frustration went into writing. And I eventually wrote that book. And the reason why I bring this up is because I've worked for other people for many years. And when I did have my own companies, I was playing not to lose. And it got to the point where I realized that I was almost waiting for someone's approval. This someone is like an imaginary person. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to validate me. I'm waiting for someone to give me the green light to go all out and to really try to make a big impact on this world. I felt like I was playing it very small. So that book just completing it, not selling it, but just finishing it and publishing it, it put such a spark in me, and it allowed me to reflect on myself and realize that I've had many adversities, many like problems, but the biggest one that I had to overcome was myself. A lot of it was like a lot of self-sabotage, a lot of just talking yourself out of things. It wasn't no one person. It was me. I can like trace back to every time I didn't hit a goal or something, and it fell back on my lap. And it was something that I didn't do, or something that I could have tried harder with. And at the end of the day, the biggest adversity was just overcoming myself. And that's why I think it's extremely important to try to do something that's going to raise your confidence. And you got to get a win. You got to do something that's going to make you like prove to yourself in all aspects of the word, like that you're worthy of the mission. You're worthy of the cause. You're worthy of the wealth. You're basically just worthy. And where that negativity comes from, I can't tell you exactly like where it probably came from my childhood, but a lot of it is deep down in my subconscious mind. And it's like that for a lot of people, I've noticed. So again, just to reiterate what I just said, the biggest problem was myself, and writing the book helped me overcome it.
So your children are growing up now, right? Where do you envision them as young adults when it comes to finance and wealth building?
I don't want to put any pressure on them. Here's the thing. I'm definitely not one of those parents that are trying to live through my children. It's not one of those things where I don't have what it takes, so let me live through them, live vicariously through them. I'm okay with whatever they do, honestly. I want to know that I did my best to give them the education that I didn't receive. And when I say education, I mean like a thorough education in financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And I'm already doing that. And as far as a comparison between them and myself, like my childhood, I already did it. It's already done. I hit the ball out the park. But in terms of what I would hope for them to do, I want them to be entrepreneurs. I'm grooming them to be entrepreneurs. It doesn't have to be in any particular industry. I want them to like pursue their passions because I think it'll be a lot easier for them. But if they took a regular job, I would look at them and say, wow, how did that happen? I wouldn't be upset, but I would be like, oh my goodness. But I can tell you right now, the programming that I'm instilling them, I mean, it's programming. There's nothing else to call it. There's no way that's going to happen. I can guarantee that it's only a matter of time that after they have a job, they're going to move over to entrepreneurship, because anybody that was an entrepreneur that had any type of success, even if you had some failures, it's only a matter of time before you realize there's no comparison when it comes to what you can do in terms of making money and getting control of your life and your time in comparison to working a job. There's no comparison. And I think a lot of people never choose entrepreneurship as a profession because they've never tried it. They just never actually tried it. But the moment they do and they have some success, there's no going back.
So if you had to do it all over again, what is the first thing you would do?
Oh man, start small, real small. So I went from not knowing anything to reading that one book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that was the first book I ever read, mind you. I didn't read. I had a problem. I guess I was dyslexic, but that book was easy to read and it gave me the confidence to continue reading. And I found a passion in financial literacy. So I started reading other books, and it only took me like 3 or 4 more books before I decided to buy real estate. And I tried to buy a $500,000 house in New York, in the Bronx, New York, where I was living when I was 21 years old. And I realized that my credit wasn't good enough. It was too premature. I read another book on how to get it with no money down. And in the book, it told me you can get a co-signer. And sure enough, I did. I got my father to co-sign on a $500,000 house at 21 years old. Okay. And I know I'm not saying this is something, I do not recommend this, okay? But this is what happened. Excuse me. Initially, he co-signed, but then I came off the deal and it was just him. So although he was financially responsible for it, I did everything. Okay. It was a 2-family home with a finished basement. I rented out the 2 top floors and I lived in the basement, and I had it for 2 years, and it was a nightmare, but it was a blessing at the same time. Okay. It was one of those things where I learned so much. Becoming a landlord at that age it's hard to describe, but I learned more in there than I did getting my degree in accounting. I learned so much. And going back to, your original question, what would I do over? I wouldn't start with a $500,000 house. I would start with like a $50,000 house. But the problem was that was cheap in New York. That was a good deal. This was right before the real estate bubble burst in 2008. Financing, they would give it to anybody with a heartbeat, and real estate was very overpriced. And I was not thinking about going out of state. I know I threw a lot at you just now, but that was like the biggest one. I would definitely still have went into real estate, but I would have started so small. And I recommend that to everyone else, because at the end of the day, when it blows up on your face, it's a lot harder to dig yourself out of that type of a hole than a $50,000 hole.
So what is the first asset that you would like your children to acquire?
But besides financial literacy, besides
the asset, their brain? Well, that's an asset, yeah. Besides that, which they're on course for anyway. That,
I would want them to create their own asset, to be honest. That's where remember I told you the game promotes the use of an idea, okay? And an idea is something original. It's something that you create. And if you create an idea, whether it sells or not, whether the public picks up on it or not, it's still an asset. It's just a matter of if it's an income producing one or not. Right. But at the end of the day, it is an asset. My book, it's an asset. This program, this game, it's an asset. So why would you want to pay for someone else's when you have no control over someone else's? Why would I want to buy a piece of real estate when I'm not in control of every aspect of it? Because there's a lot of factors when it comes to real estate. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, there's a lot more to do with it than just coming up with your own little invention. So that's what I would recommend at first. For her to be an innovator, a creator, for her to pick up trends and to go that route. And I would rather have my children refine their ingenuity, like that type of creativity part, than to invest in someone else. Because when you invest in another company, you're investing in them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think they should invest in themselves first.
Okay. Ivan, I want to thank you for coming out to the show, and I want to let the fans know, let the listeners know, where can they find you? How can they reach you? And what social media are you located on?
Thanks, Eric. So you can find me at Headstart, 2, riches.com. Headstart, 2, riches.com. So, the website's there. That's where the learning program is. You'll also get a free copy of my book. It's an ebook. You'll get it there as well. All you got to do is put in an email address. And as far as social media, everything is also the same. It's Head Start to Riches. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on all the platforms. But by all means, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I just want to thank you again for having me on the show. I'm glad that people like you are out there putting the word out, because this subject is very much taboo. People they have a hard time with it. But the more we talk about it, the more comfortable we will be, and the better off the children will be.
Okay, so one good point I could take out of that interview was you can start wealth building, but it might not ending with you. Get your children started and pass the mantle on to them so they could build that generational wealth. Another point, have fun. Have fun doing it. You got to remember, you're making memories with your kids. If you're having fun and camouflage some of the learning, they won't even notice. And you'll be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, our announcement today is we have a Twitter account. That's right. We're not only on Facebook, now we have a Twitter account. So come check us out, follow us, and chime in. Let's see what you got to say. So as usual, like us, spread the word, share with other parents. Check us out on Facebook, and now check us out on Twitter. And we will see you on next week's episode.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. Stay connected with us directly through raisingfinancialfreedom.com. You can also join the discussion on social media, which you can also find links on our website. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email through info@raisingfinancialfreedom.com. And as always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
Before you go, I wanted to tell you about a new option called Fan Mail, which uses text messaging to give our listeners the ability to text our show directly. There is a link in every episode at the top that will say, "Send us a text." You can use that link to text the show. When a listener clicks the link in our episode description, a new text message will open on your device directly to the show. It's that easy. So tell me what you think, what else you want to hear out of the show, or simply your thoughts on that episode you just heard.